Hi, so I'm Jennifer and I am the creator of HMP Mental Health. Let me see that again. Hi, I'm Jennifer and I am the creator for HM Prison Mental Health. No, wait. Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Jennifer and I am the creator of this documentary, HM HMP. Hi, I'm Jennifer and I'm the creator of this documentary, HMP Mental Health. And this is going to be all about the mental health of officers that are in the prison service. So people don't really get to see that side of documentaries that they watch. And it's quite an eye-opener. So this is what the documentary is going to be about. It may be sad and it may be eye-opening, but I think this is what people need to see. So let's start from the beginning. I'm Jennifer, and in 2015 I thought it'd be a really good idea to have a new challenge, become a prison officer, and I did it. I applied, and within next to no time I was invited to an interview. Well, not really an interview as such. They didn't even have a face-to-face asking questions. It was all about your fitness. It was all about your English and your maths and whether you can be observant. There was no question about why do you want to be a prison officer? Why do you want to join the prison service? There was none of that, not for me, and that was in 2015. So if we start from training, and it was 10 weeks, and it was written, it was fitness. Training didn't really prepare you for what was going to happen. You're not prepared. And I think I made the wrong decision. I should have never done it. It changed me as a person. And at the beginning, I thought it was the best thing. I would go in and have the best day, thinking that I was helping other people. There was a BBC documentary that I took part in, and I loved it. And I'll show you the footage now. I wanted to rehabilitate prisoners.
We're going down two, so we're going bang up.
And facing this pressure, Jennifer. This is her first job inside a prison.
4 weeks in.
Yeah, 4 weeks in.
You're shaking.
Yeah, but it's the rush. You know, if something going to happen. Like I've done so much. That was the first time I've used my CNR, which is use of force. It all goes off here.
Job for you.
Yeah, definitely. Like it happens on a regular basis. We just have to get used to it.
Is it what you expected it to be?
Yeah. Well, what do you expect prison to be like? Prison is prison.
Did you expect this?
Yeah. I expected daily arguments, daily fights.
What you got?
I pulled out my baton for the first time yesterday. I cut down my first hanging prisoner 2 weeks into the job. You are going to be faced with a lot of realist things. You're going to be faced with shocks. But it's a.
Do you want to do this job?
I came into this job to be able to rehabilitate certain prisoners.
Can you do that?
I think I can.
And in hindsight, it wasn't the prisoners that made me feel the way I did. It was the officers. I would go in the morning, and the minute I saw who I was working with, I knew I was going to have a good day or a shit day. And excuse my language, but it was a shit day. And I should have known when my friend Alex, who you can see here. And in this picture, he looks full of life, full of happiness. And do we know what goes on behind closed doors? No. No, we don't. He went missing a month after he helped me move to a different house. We went for a drink, and I couldn't tell. He was talking to me about planning a holiday to America in 2016. I started on the January and training ended in April, and I went to start on the landings that April. In the September, my friend helped me move. And then literally a month later, he went missing. We put on social media, let's find Alex. And little did we know that he'd hung himself. My friend hung himself because of the job. I knew this was going to be difficult. It got too much for Alex. A year later, it was going to be too difficult to me too. Okay. So let's start with the interview that I did with Sam. Now, I met Sam when I first started the prison service. She'd already been there for a year before me, 6 months maybe. And she crumbled in front of my eyes. Good thing she's still with us because she's one of my best friends now. But let's see her perspective. And here's Sam. Let me bring up my first question because I've literally just forgotten what it is. So, Sam, why did you want to become a prison officer in the first place?
So I worked in the police for 5 years before and decided that I didn't like it. So I wanted to try another public service. And it just happened to be at the time there was loads of adverts out for prison officers. So I thought I would give it a go because I wanted to try something that was going to be challenging, something that was different every day.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was quite blind going in because nobody really knows what prison officers do or what you see. And I was at the time 23, so I was quite young. So I just thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, so I'll give it a go. I wanted to see kind of what went on inside with the rehabilitation, and it was just quite interesting, really. I expected it to be more organised. I expected it to be safer and not as chaotic as it was. I think at the very beginning it was very different because there was a lot of experienced officers when you very first joined. There was a lot of old school officers that had the knowledge and the experience. So it did run smoothly, but I was very surprised at the freedom that prisoners had in prison. So the prison is split into different wings. So A up to E. And I was on Bravo wing, which was a normal residential wing for prisoners. But between A wing and B wing, we used to get quite a lot of the problematic prisoners coming onto those wings. But it was a mixture of all different category prisoners. So it could be anything from shoplifters up to murderers on the same wing.
So when did you realise that something was wrong?
So I think about 2 years in, it does start to wear you down, and it's hard to cope because normal people in your life don't understand what you see and what you go through. So you do a 10-hour shift on a 9-day run and have 1 day off, and you come home and everybody else in their life has got normal problems, and you just kind of think, I found it very difficult to cope because somebody would be moaning about somebody in their office, whereas I've been at work for the last 10 hours dealing with a prisoner that's hung himself, a prisoner that's cut his wrists, a prisoner that's flooded his cell, a prisoner that's set himself alight, plus 100 other, or 200 other prisoners that I've had to get out of their cells and back in their cells for food, exercise, work. And it was just, it became so stressful, and the only people that would understand what you were going through was your colleagues. And I found it very difficult in my home life and in relationships because no one actually knew what I was dealing with on a daily basis. And it got to the point where I would start going out for my lunch breaks because I didn't want to be within the prison for my hour break. And it just got to the stage where I just found I couldn't go back in, and I would sit in the car on my lunch breaks and just break down in tears, and I would ring my family and say I can't go back in there, but you have to, you know, got bills to pay. And then obviously my mental health went downhill quite rapidly. I had a bit of a breakdown whilst I was in the prison service, and I ended up having 4 months off with depression. I started anxiety medication because I wasn't coping in normal life situations. My family were like my rock. They were my biggest support, and I would tell them about everything, but I was worried that I was putting too much on them. The prison did offer me counselling, but I ended up going through counselling with the doctors because I was off for so long. I went through a lot of counselling with my own doctors rather than through the prison service. And I did hit a very low point about 3 years in, where my mental state was so bad that I was pretty much ready to just sort of give up on life as a whole. And it was really, really scary.
Well, no, we've been there. We know. Yeah. So why did you make the decision to leave? And when did you make that decision to leave?
So I went back after I had a bit of time off, and I thought, right, I got myself together. I went back, and it was I was on a shift, and as you know, in Wandsworth there's no general alarms, no nothing. You literally rely on a whistle.
Yeah.
So something goes wrong, you blow that whistle and you just hope that somebody comes.
Yeah.
And there was a few situations where I'd done that and no one came and helped, and it was just literally me and these prisoners, and I was on my own, and no one would come and help. But I came in for a shift, and an incident happened, and it got to the point where I left work that day and I sat in my car and I thought, I literally do not know how I am still alive, because when you replay it in your mind,
yeah,
and you think about what happened and how it could have been so easy for me to have just not made it out of work that day. And my sister had just given birth to my first niece, and I said, it's not worth it. I want my niece to know me. I want her to grow up and have me as an auntie. I don't want her not knowing who I was, because the job isn't worth it. The job is not worth putting myself through the stress and the danger. So I decided for my family that I'm not going to do it anymore.
So what do you feel could have changed to make you stay?
I think over the time I was there, they lost a lot of experienced officers, and we was getting a lot of new officers coming in that didn't have the life experience and they didn't have the right skills to deal with the prisoners. And then over time, the prison kind of was being run by the prisoners. There's no authority whatsoever. So it became too dangerous. So they needed to start bringing in more.
Are you there?
Yeah,
Okay.
there you are.
Okay. That's fine.
So I feel they either they had to bring in a lot more experienced officers.
Mm-hmm.
They had to give us more authority and more power to take control back over the prisoners.
Yeah.
And I also felt that the money that you got paid for that job was just pathetic. Yeah.
And you joined Royal Mail?
I went off for a year and done part-time Royal Mail, yeah, because my head was just, I just felt like I needed that time to try and feel a little bit human again.
Okay. So it was the year that you worked for Royal Mail, and is it then that you thought you'd try again and you joined Belmarsh?
So when on my year out, I decided I missed the because I'm just so, because I'd done like almost 10 years in the services, I was just so used to shift work and constantly being busy and dealing with different things, and then suddenly going to part-time for the last year, I found myself at a bit of a loss. I didn't really know what to do with myself.
Okay.
So I thought, well, what can I go into next? Do I go back and try a different prison, or do I try something else completely? So I ended up deciding that I was going to go for Belmarsh,
Right.
because it was a category A prison. They have to be fully staffed at all times. So
Okay.
I thought to myself,
Safer.
rather than going like back to a category B like Wandsworth, where it was so understaffed and there was about 3 or 4 officers to about 200 prisoners, I thought I'll give it a go at a category A where there's more staff, so it would be in theory safer
Yeah.
to work in. So I thought I would give that a go. But again, that wasn't the case. Yes, they're fully staffed, but they're 18-year-olds with absolutely no life experience and no skills with dealing with category A prisoners.
Would you say then that Belmarsh and probably the other prisons in the country are 75% brand new to the world, 18-year-old members of staff?
I would say a lot of them were coming in very young, and a lot of them were coming in for their year gap during uni, so it looked good on their CV, and they had no intention of staying whatsoever. So they were getting trained.
Doesn't it, Sam?
They would have all that money spent on them for the training, come in for a year, put it on their CV, and leave, and that was it. And all the experienced ones were retired, or just leaving because they'd had enough.
Just speaks volumes.
Yes.
So if you knew then,
Mm-hmm.
at the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
what you know now, would you have still done it?
I'm glad I'd done it, because it, as a person, it made me a strong individual, because I've seen a lot and I've dealt with a lot, and it's kind of made me who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I definitely would have left sooner before it impacted my mental health so badly. I think I should have done a couple of years to get the experience, but I should have left before it got too bad.
So where you are now, which is at Heathrow Airport,
Yeah,
is that your career for life now? And are you happy?
I'm very happy now, and yes, I would say I would definitely keep this. This is definitely a job to keep for life. Definitely.
So do you feel that in the near future you will be able to come off your anxiety medication?
So I came off them last year, and I've been in the job I'm in now 2 years. So I've actually come off of them now. So yeah, it's definitely the best decision I made to change jobs.
I think Sam was really good to open up to me well, I'm a friend, aren't I? So it was going to be an easy thing for her to do, I think. She has a lot to say. And she tried again. So she put in the effort, but it's not for everybody. And then my other half, Liam, we'll see him later on. He's going to be doing an interview in regards to how it was living with me when I was at my lowest point. And I gave a graduation speech at his graduation. And one of the guys that graduated that day as an officer, when I shook his hand as he came up onto the stage, he said, "Thank you for what you've said. I know I'm going to be proud to do this job." And that was before I felt the way I did. So this was, I'd say, April 2017. 5 months later, that guy killed himself because of the job. 5 months. Just got too much. Sometimes I think about that guy and I only shook his hand for maybe a second, and what he said to me. I feel a little bit guilty, I should say, for what happened. I gave him a boosting speech and he felt proud. He had a wife and a child and he killed himself because of the job that I said he was proud to do. Yeah. Shocking, isn't it? Let's see some statistics about prison officers and their mental health. We don't see it enough and it needs to be shouted from the rooftops. And you're about to find out why. 1 in 8 prison officers are referred for help with mental health issues. In 2019, almost 2,000 prison officers took absences from work as a result from their mental health and pressures from work. So that is 12% of all officers in post since 2017. And it's absolutely shocking that these numbers are as high as they are. When asking Google for prison officer suicide figures, it comes up with some random information to say that they haven't got those figures available. I think they do. They just don't want to release them. So fast forward to the end of August 2017. Woke up one morning, ready to do an afternoon shift. Couldn't move in bed. I couldn't move in bed. I just couldn't move. Paralysed, I'd say. And the tears just started coming. Thinking about going into work. Now, I should have known really, because earlier that year I was starting to do quite a few night shifts, because I could be in a team of 5 and the prisoners were all behind their doors. And it's different to the daytime, because as I said before, when you walk into the prison building and you walk into the office of the wing that you're going to be on that day, and you see who you're working with, and you know that it's going to be corrupt officers that you're working with that'll just let the prisoners do anything they want, or prison officers that actually want to do the job and actually want to rehabilitate. I think that's what started it off, because when I was walking onto the landings, and let's say I'm on the 4s, and there's 4 landings and they're quite big, and you've got 200 men out at one time, and you look down over the railings and the only white shirt you can see is yours, your own. So you go into the office and all the officers are in there, and you say, if something was to happen to me now, who am I relying on? The prisoners. They laugh, they smile, they joke, they come out for like, what, 10 minutes and go straight back in. That was the start of it. And then I'd get anxious going in each day. So that's when I became in charge of nights, because I was doing that many, that often, that I became in charge of the night shift, Oscar 2. And I loved it. And then one day I was told that I had to stop because I was doing too many. And that led me on to crying in bed, paralysed. Eventually got out of bed that morning and I just looked at my other half, Liam, in our little 1-bed flat in Wandsworth. And I just said, can't go in today. And he just joked back and said, I can't go in either. I don't want to go into work. And I replied with, no, I can't go in today. So I emailed the office. When you call in sick or you're not coming in, that, you know, it's detail. So they have to look about who's coming in, who's not. And I told them how I was feeling. And they were like, okay. The communication wasn't great. But I had a friend who was a governor and I met her that evening for something to eat. And she was so kind, so nice, saying, go back when you're ready. A week later, she sent me a message, think you best get back to work now. Don't think it's that easy. For a month, I didn't leave the flat. Couldn't. And Liam's interview that you're about to see, he didn't have the mental health issues that I did, but he was living with them. And it's just as difficult.
When you had the, I wouldn't say breakdown. Yeah, I did feel like you were dependent on me to a certain extent. It's where I was like your only, outlet. Like.
And did I change as a person?
Well, of course you did. If you're battling with mental health, which everyone's going to. Everyone changes from day to day, don't they?
Do you regret staying?
No. Why would I regret staying? I feel like we've got through it. Well, I've got through it, but like you've got, you're on the up type of thing.
Do you feel that I'm back to my normal self?
No, you're a different person now. This is your normal self now. Obviously you're not the same person as what you once were.
What do you think we could have done earlier for everything to be okay?
You could have left as soon as you started feeling the way that you were feeling. I feel like the only reason why I stayed in the prison service was because I came down to London and that's what you're doing, and you felt like you probably had to continue it.
And do you still love me the same as you did before?
No, I love you more. I love you more than what I did then.
Is that because we've been through quite a bit?
Well, of course. Okay, so I found myself doing more overtime in work because I found it difficult that you just wait for me to come home and then you'll be dependent on me. So I've just found myself doing more and more in work so I could get some space.
And how would you say that my personality changed? What made you think that? That I was a different person?
Well, it's just the way that you acted. From when we first met, you were happy, outgoing, and then all of a sudden you were just someone completely different who wasn't happy, struggling day to day, and just not even wanting to leave the flat. When you used to be someone who travelled the world, now you can't even go outdoors anymore.
For 4 months, I was at my lowest point. And I kept thinking about Alex. He must have been at the lowest point that I was. For him to kill himself. It's hard. It's a hard job. It's not for everyone. I earned quite a bit of money, and I think that's what brought me into it. 34,000, and now it's 27. And if you're in the northwest, it's 22. That's nothing. And to think that I became a different person. Liam says I'm a different person. It's compared to then to what I am now. 4 months I took off. Thinking that, maybe the best way was to end my life because I couldn't face it. It's hard. It's hard knowing that if you go into work, you might not come out. The amount of death threats I got. And it wasn't even the prisoners that was making me feel like shit. It was not having a team around me that actually cared about the job. It's sad. I didn't resort to harming myself. I have no scars. I think it was all up here. And now I'm ruled by anxiety every day. I overthink quite a lot now. And every little thing bothers me. We moved to Australia in the April of 2017. No, 2018. We moved to Australia in April 2018. And we moved for a better life, really. For me to feel good about myself again. Didn't work. I was having nightmares about prison life. Nightmares. And then one day Liam left for work and I was on my own. And I was thinking, I'm going to kill myself today. I'm going to kill myself today. And to have that kind of thought because of a job that you had. What must have been going through my head? I wanted to kill myself. Kill myself because of a job. Luckily, I came out the other side. I'm still not the kind of person I should be. Some days I'm still ruled by anxiety and I can't get out of that motion. I've even developed a bit of a stutter. Thankfully, not today. Tried therapy, didn't work. And sometimes it doesn't. But I know that the answer is not to end your life. Too many officers have done it. And it's not worth it. The job is not worth it. The statistics show that what prison does to you is shocking. And people don't think about the officers. They don't. But I'm hoping that the interviews that have been shown today and the statistics and the footage that I've shown you today is eye-opening. And I'm really hoping that you've enjoyed. Well, not enjoyed. I'm hoping it was interesting for you. Thank you for watching.